Have you ever wondered what life would feel like without the constant weight of worry? In a world that never stops moving, many of us spend our days waiting for the perfect moment, the right conditions, or some distant peace that never seems to arrive. But what if peace isn't something you chase? What if it's already here, quietly waiting in places we often overlook? In this video, we'll explore 7 timeless Buddhist insights that can help you gently loosen the grip of fear and return to something more real: your breath, your presence, your life as it is. These aren't abstract ideas. They're practical shifts that you can feel. Whether you're just beginning this journey or have walked it for years, I invite you to listen with your heart open. Let's walk through each lesson, slowly and sincerely, and rediscover the quiet strength that's always been within you. 1. The present moment is the only safe place you'll ever have. Most of us spend a lifetime preparing for what hasn't happened yet. We worry about tomorrow's problems, carry the weight of yesterday's mistakes, and rarely pause long enough to notice the one place we're actually living right here, right now. But Buddhism teaches us something quietly revolutionary: that true peace and freedom don't exist in the past or the future. They exist only in this moment. This isn't just a poetic idea, it's a practical truth. Because no matter what storm may be swirling in your mind, your breath is still moving in and out. Your feet are still grounded on the earth. The sun still rises. The wind still moves. And in this ordinary present, something extraordinary can happen. You can feel safe. You can finally exhale. Worry thrives in our imagination. It invents disasters that haven't happened and may never come. It tells us, "You're not ready. Something will go wrong." Or, "You need to think this through a little more." But the truth is, worry doesn't protect us. It drains us. It takes us away from our actual life and traps us in mental rehearsals for pain that may never arrive. What's worse, our bodies don't know the difference between a real threat and an imagined one. So each time we dwell on what if, our hearts race, our muscles tense, and our spirit contracts even when we're physically safe. But here's the good news. Every time you choose to return to the present, you reclaim your peace. You interrupt the cycle. You say to your nervous system, "It's okay now." You can rest. And little by little, you begin to feel what's actually true, not the fearful story in your head, but the stillness that's been waiting for you underneath it all. Living in the present doesn't mean ignoring responsibilities or pretending everything is perfect. It means coming home to yourself, moment by moment, breath by breath. It means paying attention to the simple things that remind you I'm alive. I'm okay. This is enough. When the mind tries to drag you into the future, you can gently respond. I don't need to solve tomorrow right now. Right now, I'm safe. I'm breathing. And that is enough. With practice, this becomes your refuge, a quiet place inside that no fear can touch. Because when you are truly present, worry loses its power. It can only survive in a mind that isn't here. So, today, try this pause for a moment. Take a slow breath and look around. Feel your body. Listen to the sounds. Come back to this moment. Again and again, as if it's the most precious thing you have, because it is. And if this message speaks to something in you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Share your experience with worry, or how you return to the present, your story might comfort someone else. And if you found peace in this reflection, gently like this video and subscribe to Awakening Insights for more soulful guidance on your journey inward. This channel is here to walk beside you. Let's breathe through this life together. 2. Acceptance isn't giving up. It's allowing yourself to breathe. Once we begin to slow down and return to the present, we often meet something we've been trying hard to avoid: discomfort, a difficult emotion, an unwanted reality. And in those moments, our first instinct is usually resistance. We tighten up. We tell ourselves it shouldn't be this way. We replay the past. We try to fix what's already happened. But the more we resist what is, the more we suffer, not because the situation is unbearable, but because we're fighting it so hard. Buddhism teaches us that peace doesn't come from changing life to match our expectations. It comes from accepting what is, even when it's not what we wanted. Now, acceptance is often misunderstood. Many believe it means giving up or being passive. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Acceptance doesn't mean we approve of what's happening. It doesn't mean we stop caring or trying. It means we stop pretending that reality isn't real. We stop exhausting ourselves by wishing it were different when, at this moment, it is not. And in that honest recognition, this is what's happening right now. A softening begins. The internal war quiets. You stop bracing against the tide. And in that softening, you can finally breathe again. Think of how often we suffer more from our resistance than from the event itself. A relationship ends, and instead of grieving, we obsess over what we could have done differently. We ask endless questions that have no answer. We try to rewrite the past with our thoughts, as if mental effort could undo what's already done. But it can't. And the more we push back against what is, the deeper the ache becomes. Acceptance is the moment you stop arguing with life. It's not resignation, it's clarity. You allow yourself to feel exactly what you feel, without judgment, without shame. And that's where healing truly begins. Because from that honest ground, you can take the next step, not with panic, but with presence. Not with force, but with wisdom. This doesn't mean you stop growing or changing what you can. It simply means you stop needing things to be perfect before you allow yourself peace. You begin to see that peace isn't the outcome of control. It's the result of surrendering control. Acceptance creates space. Space for clarity, for rest, for thoughtful action. And that space can change everything. So if you're holding your breath, trying to hold life together, trying to fix what's unfixable, maybe it's time to pause. Maybe it's time to say, yes, this is hard. And yes, this is what's true right now. In that moment, you may feel the pressure lift. You may find, for the first time in a long time, a quiet place inside that simply says, I'm still here. I'm still breathing. If that speaks to something within you, I invite you to share a moment when acceptance brought you peace. Or perhaps when resistance wore you down. Your words might be just what someone else needs to hear. And if you find comfort in this reflection, please like the video and subscribe to Awakening Insights for more gentle guidance on your path. Together, we can learn to breathe through what is instead of breaking under what we cannot change. 3. You are not your thoughts. Not every thought deserves to be believed. Once you've made peace with the present moment, and softened into acceptance. A new challenge often arises. The mind doesn't stop talking. It keeps whispering, questioning, predicting. What if things get worse? What if I'm not enough? What if I fail again? These thoughts appear like uninvited guests at your most tender moments. And if you're not careful, they begin to shape your reality. But here's something Buddhism teaches that can change your entire relationship with your inner world. You are not your thoughts. And not every thought that crosses your mind deserves your full attention or your belief. The mind is incredibly powerful. It can dream, plan, imagine, and protect, but it can also create fear where there is none, replay old pain that no longer serves you, and lead you away from peace. Many of us take every thought seriously, as if each one were a fact or a warning. But most thoughts are just mental weather passing clouds in a vast sky. Some are light and pleasant. Others are heavy and dark. But none of them last forever. And none of them define the sky. The same is true for you. At your core, beneath the noise of the mind, there is a deeper awareness, a still, steady presence that simply watches without judgment. When you begin to observe your thoughts instead of automatically believing them, something shifts. You create space between you and the mental chatter. You begin to recognize a thought as just that, a thought, not a truth, not a prophecy, not a command. This space is powerful. It's where freedom lives. Because in that space, you get to choose which thoughts to listen to and which ones to let drift away. When your mind says you're not strong enough, you can pause, breathe, and gently respond. That's just a thought, not a fact. And with practice, you'll notice that the thoughts that used to knock you down start to lose their grip. You don't need to fight your mind. You just need to stop treating it like the ultimate authority. The more you practice this inner observation, the more peaceful your relationship with yourself becomes. You'll still have thoughts, everyone does, but they won't carry the same weight. You'll no longer be at their mercy. You'll be free to respond from your center, rather than react from your fear. So if your mind has been noisy lately, if it's been spinning stories, criticizing your efforts, or predicting disaster, try stepping back. Watch it. Don't judge it. Just notice. And in that simple act of noticing, you reclaim your power. Has your mind ever led you somewhere that wasn't real? Or have you ever found peace in letting a thought pass without reacting? I'd love to hear your experience in the comments. Your voice matters. And if this reflection helped you see your inner world with more clarity, consider sharing it with someone who might need it. You can also tap the like button or subscribe to Awakening Insights for more grounded, heartfelt wisdom. Each time you engage, you help this community grow, and you remind others and yourself that we are not alone in this inner work. Let's keep walking gently, thought by thought, back to peace. 4. Everything passes, even fear. If thoughts can be observed and released, then emotions, especially fear, can be softened too. And one of the most freeing truths in Buddhism is this: everything is impermanent. Nothing lasts forever. Not your joy, not your pain, not even your fear. Life is always changing, always flowing, like a river that never stays still. Yet when we're afraid, it doesn't feel that way. Fear convinces us that what we're feeling now is how it will always be. It tells us the darkness is permanent, that the weight in our chest will never lift. But that's simply not true. Even the heaviest emotions rise, crest, and fall just like waves. Think back to a time in your life when you felt completely overwhelmed. Maybe you were anxious, grieving, heartbroken, or lost. In those moments, it felt endless, didn't it? Like the pain would never let go. But here you are. You survived. You moved through it. And that memory now lives in the past, not in your present. This simple realization is powerful. It reminds you that even when fear feels consuming, it is still just a visitor, not a permanent resident in your soul. When we forget impermanence, we panic. We start to believe that this is how it's always going to be, and we spiral deeper into worry. But when we remember that all things pass, we create space inside ourselves. Space for patience. Space for breath. Space for healing to unfold naturally, without pressure. And this shift in awareness can change everything, not by making the fear vanish, but by removing its grip. Fear, like any emotion, is a wave. It builds, it peaks, and then it recedes. When you learn to ride the wave without trying to control it or push it away, you become stronger, calmer, more grounded. You begin to trust that even in discomfort, you are not broken. You are just human, and that is enough. The practice is this: when fear arises, instead of saying, "Oh no, not this again," try whispering, "This is only a moment. It will pass." Place your hand on your heart if it helps. Feel your breath, even if it's shaky. Trust the process. You've moved through difficult feelings before, and you will again. You are not stuck. You are in motion always. Learning to live with impermanence isn't about detaching from life. It's about embracing it, more fully knowing that everything is fleeting, makes each moment more precious. Even the painful ones become sacred, because they too are part of the rhythm of being alive. Has remembering impermanence ever helped you in a hard time? Or do you struggle to trust that things will pass? I'd be honored to read your reflections in the comments below. Your story might offer hope to someone still riding the wave. And if today's message brought calm to your heart, I invite you to like this video or share it with someone who needs it. Subscribing to Awakening Insights is also a beautiful way to stay connected on this journey through life's changes. One breath, one wave, one moment at a time. 5. Letting go of control is how you set yourself free. If impermanence teaches us that fear won't last forever, then surrender teaches us something equally vital. We were never meant to control everything. And yet, so many of us live as if peace will only come once we've mastered every detail, anticipated every outcome, and secured every possible future. We cling tightly to our plans, our routines, even to other people, hoping that if we hold on tight enough, we can prevent anything painful from happening. But life doesn't work that way. It never has. And the harder we try to control everything, the more anxious and exhausted we become. This truth can feel uncomfortable at first. We've been taught that being in control is being responsible, that letting go means weakness. But in reality, trying to control what was never ours to begin with is what creates the deepest suffering. Think about it. How many sleepless nights have you spent worrying about things you couldn't change? How much of your energy has gone into planning, predicting, or preventing, only to realize that life still moves in its own mysterious way? Buddhism invites us into a different way of being, a way that still acts with care and intention, but no longer clings. You still show up. you still give your best. But you release the need to force life to fit your image of how it should go. You learn to trust the unfolding, and that trust becomes your freedom. Letting go of control doesn't mean apathy. It doesn't mean giving up. It means understanding where your responsibility ends and where surrender begins. You are responsible for your actions, your choices, your heart. But the outcomes, the responses of others, the twists of fate, those are not yours to carry. Trying to control them will only tighten the grip of fear. Releasing them, on the other hand, opens the door to peace. It's like standing in a river. The more you try to resist the current, the more exhausted you become. But when you learn to float, to move with the flow instead of against it, you begin to feel supported, carried, guided. That's what letting go feels like, not falling, but finally being held by something greater than yourself. So today, ask yourself gently, what am I holding too tightly? Is it a plan, a person, a past mistake, or a version of how things were supposed to go? And what would it feel like to place that burden down, just for a moment, and rest? Letting go is not a one-time event. It's a practice, a daily returning to trust. And every time you do, you free a little more space in your heart for stillness, gratitude, and clarity. If you've ever found strength in letting go, or if you're struggling to loosen your grip, I invite you to share your story in the comments. Your honesty may be exactly what someone else needs to feel brave. If this message lightened your heart even a little, consider liking this video, sharing it with a friend, or subscribing to Awakening Insights to keep receiving nourishment for your spirit. Let's keep reminding each other, the more we let go, the more we come home to peace. 6. Speak kindly to the voice inside that worries. After we begin to release control, something surprising often happens. The inner voice of worry grows louder. It panics, not because it wants to harm us, but because it feels like it's losing its grip. That voice, the one that always plans for the worst or questions your every move, doesn't mean to be cruel. In fact, in its own confused way, it thinks it's protecting you. But over time, that constant fear-based chatter becomes more of a burden than a help. It keeps you anxious, on edge, and unable to rest. And if you've carried that voice for years, maybe even for decades, you know just how exhausting it can be. Buddhism offers a radical but gentle alternative instead of fighting that inner voice or trying to silence it through force. What if you met it with compassion? What if, instead of saying, "Be quiet," or "You're ruining everything," you responded like you would to a frightened child, softly, patiently, lovingly? Because the truth is, this voice doesn't need more punishment. It needs to be seen, heard, understood. You might say to it, "I know you're scared. I know you're trying to keep me safe, but we're okay right now. You don't need to panic. I'm here. We're breathing. We'll take it one step at a time." The act of turning toward your fear with kindness changes everything. It takes that spinning, fearful energy and softens it. It transforms your relationship with your inner world. Instead of being ruled by your emotions, you learn to care for them. Instead of feeling broken or weak for having fear, you begin to recognize your strength in being able to sit beside it without running away. Most of us were never taught how to tend to our emotional lives. We were told to push through, toughen up, or hide our feelings. But Buddhist wisdom teaches that true resilience doesn't come from denial. It comes from compassion. And that compassion begins with how you speak to yourself. So the next time that voice returns telling you that you're not enough, or that everything might fall apart, pause, take a breath, and speak to it gently. Not because it's right, but because you've learned how to lead with understanding. The voice may still speak, but it won't have the same hold over you. Over time, as you continue this practice, the voice begins to trust you, and your inner world becomes a quieter, safer place to be. Have you ever tried comforting your own fears instead of silencing them? If so, I'd love to hear what that experience was like. If not, maybe today is the day to begin. You're not alone in this. Every one of us carries worries. We just don't all speak to them with love. Leave a comment below, and let's share this space honestly, without shame. And if this message helped you feel more connected to yourself, gently like the video or subscribe to Awakening Insights. This channel exists to remind you don't have to fight yourself to grow. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is sit beside your fear and stay. 7. Joy is not a reward for a perfect life. It's a practice for an honest one. After all the letting go, softening, and returning to the present, there's one truth that often catches people by surprise. You don't have to wait for your life to be perfect to feel joy. Many of us live as if happiness is something to earn. We say, I'll feel better once this is fixed, or I'll rest when things calm down, or I'll smile again once everything's in order. But that moment rarely comes. Life keeps shifting, and the peace we postpone keeps drifting further away. The truth is, joy doesn't arrive at the end of the journey. It meets us along the way, in the middle of the mess, not as a loud celebration, but as a quiet presence. Sometimes, joy looks like sunlight spilling across your kitchen floor, or the sound of leaves moving in the wind, or a deep breath you didn't realize you needed. It's in the small pauses when you stop striving, stop fixing, and simply notice, I'm alive. I'm still here. And that is enough. In Buddhism, joy is not a distant prize. It's a practice, a choice you make to return, again and again, to what is without waiting for perfection. You don't need everything to make sense before you can feel peace. You don't need every wound healed before you can laugh again. And you don't need all the answers to be present with the goodness that still exists in your life. Joy lives in the now. And when you learn to find it, even in uncertain, messy moments, you begin to reclaim your power. You're no longer at the mercy of external circumstances to feel okay. You learn that life doesn't have to be flawless to be beautiful. It just has to be lived, with presence and openness and a willingness to receive what each moment offers. Practicing joy doesn't mean ignoring pain. It means making room for both. It means recognizing that a heart can feel sorrow and still be touched by beauty. It means letting the softness in, even when the world feels hard. And the more you practice, the more joy becomes your default posture, not because everything is right, but because you've learned to meet life as it is, with grace. So pause with me here. Take a breath. Look around. Can you feel a quiet moment of gratitude in your chest? Not because everything is resolved, but because you are still present, still able to feel, to hope, to breathe. I'd love to hear what joy looks like in your life, especially in seasons that didn't seem joyful at all. What have you learned about choosing joy? Even when things aren't easy, your reflections are powerful. Share them in the comments to inspire others. And if this final message stirred something gentle and true in you, please consider liking the video, subscribing to Awakening Insights, or sharing this series with someone who may be searching for peace. This space was made for slow, sacred returns to what matters most. Let's keep walking together, not chasing happiness, but practicing it. Gently, daily, from the inside out. If you've walked with me through these 7 reflections, I want to thank you, not just for listening, but for showing up for yourself in a world that rarely asks you to slow down. This journey wasn't about fixing your life or erasing your fears. It was about remembering what has always been quietly true, that peace isn't something you chase. It's something you return to, again and again, in your breath, in your presence, in your choice to be kind to yourself. Even when life feels uncertain, you don't need to do this alone. Here at Awakening Insights, we're building something soft but strong, a space where slowness is sacred and spiritual practice meets everyday life. If something in this series touched you, I invite you to stay, subscribe, leave a comment, revisit these messages when you forget, and share them with someone who needs a little light. Because the more we return together, the more we remember that healing doesn't always come in loud breakthroughs. Sometimes it begins quietly, in the simple act of pausing, breathing, and saying, I'm still here, I'm still becoming. And that, dear friend, is more than enough.